Hello and welcome to Indus News live from Islamabad. I am Muneeb Hamid with the news of this hour. Let's begin with the headlines first. The United States has registered record 225,000 COVID-19 cases overnight, with infections tally crossing 14.3 million. India's infections have topped 9.6 million, with over 36,000 new cases and 512 deaths in a day. Pakistan has reported over 3,100 cases and 44 new fatalities overnight, taking the death toll to over 8,300. While globally the virus has claimed 1.5 million lives while infecting more than 65.8 million people. US President Donald Trump has ordered withdrawal of nearly all US troops from Somalia by January 15th. The Defense Department says the move is a part of a global pullout of US forces before Trump's exit. Around 700 US troops are stationed in Somalia to assist local forces to battle Al-Shabaab and ISIS militants. Joe Biden has officially secured enough electors to take charge as the US president. The battleground state of California certified Biden's win, appointing 55 electors pledged for the Democrat. With California certification, Biden's tally of pledged electors reached 279. Meanwhile, President Trump's campaign has filed a lawsuit in Georgia seeking to invalidate election results. At least 14 people have died and 26 others are injured in a bus crash in Brazil. The incident occurred as a bus carrying 40 passengers fell from an overpass in the state of Minas Gerais. Emergency services rushed to the scene and moved the injured to hospital for medical treatment. And in football, Hertha Berlin came from 1 goal behind to beat Union Berlin 3-1 in a Bundesliga clash at the Olympia Stadium. Taiwo Avonier opened the scoring for Union Berlin in the 20th minute. But Peter Pekarik equalized in the second half, and Krzysztof Piatek then scored a brace to seal 3 points for the hosts. These were the headlines. News is coming in detail after a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Now let's have the news in detail. The United States has registered record 225,000 COVID-19 cases overnight, with the infections tally crossing 14.3 million. In India's infections have topped 9.6 million, with over 36,000 new cases and 512 deaths in a day. Globally, the virus has claimed 1.5 million lives while infecting more than 65.8 million people. More on coronavirus in this report.
Nations all across the globe are still striving their best to bend the COVID-19 curve after almost a year. But the measures employed so far simply haven't proven effective. With the coronavirus vaccine deployments, the world is starting to see light at the end of the tunnel. U.S. state health departments are preparing hospitals for first shipment of Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine. Meanwhile, President-elect Joe Biden says vaccination in the U.S. will not be made mandatory. However, Biden also said he may propose hundreds of billions of dollars in coronavirus relief next month.
Congress and President Trump have to get this deal done for the American people. But any package passed in the lame duck session is not going to be enough overall. It's critical, but it's just a start. Congress are going to need to act again in January.
Over in Latin America, public health experts in Brazil warn that an accelerated transmission rate among young people is a major contributor to a surge in cases. Meanwhile, around 1,500 health workers in Chile are taking part in phase 3 clinical trials of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine. Mexico is seeing the beginning of end of the pandemic, with the first doses of Pfizer's vaccine expected to be delivered in the next few weeks. With government's orders to cancel year-end travel plans and avoid exchanging Christmas presents, the citizens question how they will be able to feed their families in such situation.
People are not taking the measures to prevent coronavirus, and I think that the government has also not been severe in terms of compliance with the measures. I don't know what the government could do in those cases, but I believe both Mexicans and the government are responsible for the second wave of COVID-19.
In the meantime, spike in COVID-19 cases in South Korea has prompted Seoul's administration to announce unprecedented curfews starting from today.
Meanwhile, in Pakistan, 43 more people have lost the battle against COVID-19 over the past 24 hours, which raises the death toll to over 8,300. The Health Ministry says more than 3,100 people tested positive for the disease overnight. The ministry said the country's COVID-19 active cases have crossed 52,000. It added out of nearly 413,000 countrywide cases, more than 352,000 have recovered so far. The ministry said Sindh province has the highest rate of cases, while crossing 180,000. Punjab has reported over 122,000 coronavirus cases. In the capital, Islamabad, nearly 32,000 people have been infected so far. Now, Pakistan has rejected India's misleading assertions in the case of RAW's convicted terrorist commander KULBHUSHAN JADHAV. In a statement, the Foreign Office urged India to desist from delaying tactics and instead appoint a lawyer to conclude the case. It said the Indian government is casting aspersions on its own High Commission's legal counsel. Now, in 2017, JADHAV was awarded death sentence a year after his arrest from Balochistan province on the charges of espionage and terrorism. He has confessed to his involvement in terrorist activities in Pakistan. Earlier, India's External Affairs Ministry claimed that Pakistan was trying to link the JADHAV case with that of another Indian. But the Foreign Office rejected the claim and said the two cases remain entirely distinct. Now, moving on, Joe Biden has officially secured enough electors to take charge as the U.S. president. The battleground state of California certified Biden's win, appointing 55 electors pledged for the Democrat. With California certification, the president's-elect tally of pledged electors reaches 279. Now, the results of Electoral College vote are due to be received and approved by Congress on January 6th. Meanwhile, President Trump's campaign has filed a lawsuit in Georgia seeking to invalidate election results. Now, in a statement, Trump campaign said the lawsuit will include sworn statements from Georgians alleging fraud. It's time for a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Now moving on with the news stories. United States President Donald Trump has ordered withdrawal of nearly all U.S. troops from Somalia by January 15th. The Defense Department says the move is a part of a global pullout of U.S. forces before Trump's exit. In a statement, Pentagon said Trump troops would move to neighboring countries, allowing for cross-border operations. It said the move did not reflect a change in U.S. policy as it remains committed to African partners. Now, around 700 U.S. troops are stationed in Somalia to assist local forces to battle Al-Shabaab and ISIS militants. The U.S. president had already ordered a cut-down in troops level in Afghanistan from 4,500 to 2,500. Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says Iran is signaling its willingness to return to negotiations to get sanctions relief. Tensions between Washington and Tehran have risen since 2018 when the U.S. abandoned the 2015 nuclear deal. In a virtual address, Pompeo backed Washington's maximum pressure campaign and said the world must not go easy on Tehran. But President-elect Joe Biden has said he will return the U.S. to the Obama-era deal if Iran resumes compliance with the agreement. Discussing Afghanistan, Pompeo said violence in the country is unacceptably high as delayed peace talks get underway. Now, this comes 2 days after Afghan and Taliban negotiators reached a deal in Doha to proceed with talks on a political settlement. Meanwhile, Iran has criticized International Atomic Energy Agency for revealing contents of confidential report on Tehran's plan to install new centrifuges. In a tweet, Iran's envoy in Vienna said the international watchdog is responsible for protecting country's confidential safeguard information. Kazim Gharibabadi said the report appeared in media even before the IAEA's Board of Governor members could track it down. He said the watchdog should revise its confidentiality mechanisms, including using GovAtom as the safe means for communications. Meanwhile, Russia has also criticized the leaking of the report. Iran's 2015 nuclear deal allows Iran to only use first-generation IR-1 centrifuges. Also, Iran has advised Germany, France and the United Kingdom to stop despicable COVID apartheid before commenting on what Tehran should do. In a tweet, Foreign Minister Javad Zarif said EU 3 states should honor their obligations under UN Security Council resolutions on nuclear deal. Zarif said Berlin, Paris and London should also stop violating the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. He said that 3 EU nations conduct arms sales to Persian Gulf worth over $100 billion and lend blind support for Israel terror. Zarif made the remarks in reaction to Israeli media reports of Germany to recognize the Zionist regime as a European country. Tel Aviv's media reports say Germany's bid will include Israel but will exclude Palestine from the EU's coronavirus vaccination deal. Now, Saudi Arabia's Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan Al Saud says a resolution to a dispute with Qatar is within reach. Now, this comes after Kuwait's recent progress towards ending a row among the Gulf states.
Addressing the Rome conference, Prince Faisal said they have made significant progress in the last few days. He said due to the efforts of Kuwait and the United States, there is a hope that this headway can lead to a final agreement. Prince Faisal also reiterated support to the Palestinian state. He said Saudi Arabia will only normalize ties with Israel if a sovereign Palestinian state within the 1967 border lines is guaranteed. This has quashed speculations that the kingdom may soon become the latest Arab country to establish full diplomatic relations with Israel. The so-called Abraham Accords was signed in September to normalize ties between Israel and the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain. Palestinian officials condemned the normalization as a stab in the back of the Palestinian cause.
Meanwhile, Israeli troops have killed a 13-year-old Palestinian boy in the occupied West Bank. He was protesting along with hundreds of Palestinians against Israeli settlement plans. Palestinian officials said Israeli troops resorted to violent desperations of the protests against the establishment of Israeli settlements. Now, in November, Israel announced plans to build a further 1,257 settler homes in the occupied East Jerusalem. Earlier, Pakistan condemned Israel over its decision to build new settlements units in the occupied East Jerusalem. In a statement, the Foreign Office said Israeli actions against Palestine violate international law and United Nations resolutions. The West Bank, occupied by Israel since 1967, is home to over 2.8 million Palestinians. Now, Ethiopia claims to have killed or captured most commanders of the rebellious Northern Tigray People's Liberation Front. The Ethiopian military says the individuals who executed rebellion are still on the run and hiding. It said the captured or killed personnel also include former federal colonels and generals who fought on the Tigrayan side. But TPLF's local leader said civilians in Tigray have been protesting against looting by the federal soldiers. Meanwhile, UN's Humanitarian Coordination Office said the fighting is still ongoing in many parts of Tigray. It said the continuing hostilities have complicated efforts to deliver humanitarian aid in the region. Hundreds of people have been killed in fighting between Ethiopian army and Tigray forces since November 4th. Now, the UK and European Union will seek to break the stalemate over a post-Brexit trade deal today. This comes after talks to reach a deal paused. UK and EU negotiators say significant divergences remain. Prime Minister Boris Johnson and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen are meeting to break this deadlock. Negotiators Michel Barnier and David Frost said conditions for a deal between the two sides have not been met. State aid subsidies, fishing and enforcement of new rules remain the key sticking points in the negotiations. If a deal is not agreed by the 31st of December, the two sides will follow the World Trade Organization rules. Earlier, Boris Johnson's spokesman said the government was committed to working hard to try and reach for an agreement. Moving on, Venezuela is set to hold parliamentary elections on Sunday. The vote is viewed by many as a fraudulent effort by ruling Socialist Party to take charge of the parliament. The country's opposition, led by Juan Guaido, has already boycotted the elections on grounds of fraud. But the ruling coalition argued that electoral conditions were same as in 2015, when the opposition won control of National Assembly. President Nicolas Maduro and his allies are expected to win a majority, strengthening their grip on power.
I believe in the people. I trust the people. So I said to the opposition, opposition, you go into the streets to attack me, to lie and say ridiculous things. I accept your challenge. So on Sunday, we are going to a referendum. If you win, I leave the presidency.
Well, a poll by consultancy Danalysis found 60% of Venezuelans were not willing to vote, with 34% willing to do so. Now, in other stories, protests flared up as mine workers and a growing group of farm workers blocked highways across Peru. The demonstrations have amped up pressure on newly appointed interim president Francisco Sagasti. Hundreds of mine workers demanded the government to overturn management of the mining complex. Meanwhile, the farm workers protested the Congress plan to debate repeal of agrarian promotion law. They termed the legislature's move as unjust. The blockade of highways left hundreds of buses and tractor-trailers stranded, including one protester dead. President Sagasti has pledged to update the existing laws but not replace them entirely. Now, at least 14 people have died and 26 others are injured in a bus crash in Brazil. The incident occurred as a bus carrying 40 passengers fell from an overpass in the state of Minas Gerais. The civil police of Minas Gerais said 11 people died on the spot and 3 others are at a hospital. Emergency services rushed to the scene and moved the injured to hospital for medical treatment. The bus owner said the vehicle was carrying tourists. Initial reports show a mechanical failure caused the deadly crash. Now, Pakistan is observing the 49th martyrdom anniversary of Major Muhammad Akram. He embraced martyrdom during the Pakistan-India War in Hilli district of East Pakistan in 1971. Born in 1938 in a small village of Gujarat district, Dinga city, Akram got his early education from Chakri Middle School. Later, he joined the military college Jhelum and got commissioned in 4th Frontier Force Regiment of Pakistan Army on the 13th of October 1963. AKRAM maintained a good service record and was promoted as Major in September 1970. During the 1971 war, he was commanding the 4th Frontier Force Regiment in Hilli district. He repulsed every attack, inflicting heavy casualties on the enemies. During the battle, he received a burst of fire in the chest and embraced martyrdom on 5th of December 1971. Due to his supreme sacrifice, the government of Pakistan awarded him the highest military gallantry award of Nishan-e-Haider. Now, a monk in Myanmar is working for animal rights in a unique way. He saves snakes destined for culling and the black market. Details in this report.
Tenderly stroking the back of a large Burmese python resting on his lap, Buddhist monk Vilatha is trying to play a part in saving scores of snakes that might otherwise be killed or destined to be smuggled overseas as food or traditional medicine. The 69-year-old monk has created a refuge for snakes at a monastery in the bustling commercial city of Yangon. He takes in various species from pythons to vipers and cobras.
I always check their health and condition every morning, as I feel from the bottom of my heart that they are my sons and daughters.
Since its launch 5 years ago, residents and government agencies have been bringing captured snakes to the monk. The monk said residents in mainly Buddhist Myanmar hope to gain merit by giving captured snakes to a monk rather than killing or selling them.
In Buddhism, one of 4 great devas, celestial beings, is a snake guardian. In other words, the snakes are related to the deva world. If you kill a snake, you will suffer bad luck to your family, have a broken family, cause deadly disease, and destroy business.
The snakes are kept at the monastery until the forest authority sets a date to release them into protected sanctuaries. In the meantime, the snakes, which are used to hunting live prey, have to be manually fed fish or other meat 2 or 3 times a month.
Well, now in the UK, the Glow Wild Winter Lantern Festival is back for the 7th year. This year, the festival celebrates the hidden heroes of the plant and fungal world. Details in this report.
As winter draws in, one country house in England delighted visitors with its annual winter light show. Wakehurst in Sussex has installed over 1,000 lanterns across its gardens. The Glow Wild Festival never fails to transform the area into a winter wonderland.
We came last year, and I feel like this year is really outstanding. It's much even better than last year. I feel like the whole trail, like we love walking around the lanterns with the kids. It's just really magical. And more so this year, and the fire, the lake, literally everything. Oh yes, literally we've enjoyed absolutely everything.
This year, the designs have been inspired by workings of nature that generally go unnoticed, such as the spores of plant settling and the work of fungi in enriching the landscape. A staggering 33,000 plants have been illuminated, making it a truly immersive experience for the visiting families.
It's a layer added onto the Wakehurst landscape. We have something amazing here. We have these great stately trees. We have beautiful undulations and valleys within Wakehurst. And what we don't want to do is to offer something utterly different and distracting. We actually want to enhance what's here. So it's subtlety, it's light, it's sound, it's a sort of sensory layer that we add onto the landscape to really kind of bring the place at night to life for our visitors.
COVID-19 presented challenges to the annual feature, which for many residents signifies the countdown to Christmas. Lanterns had to be mailed out to staff to assemble in their homes.
Now in football, Hertha Berlin came from 1 goal behind to beat Union Berlin 3-1 in a Bundesliga clash at the Olympia Stadium. With this win, Hertha have jumped to 11th spot in the Bundesliga table, while Union Berlin are 6th. Taiwo Awoniyi opened the scoring for Union Berlin in the 20th minute, but Peter Pekarik equalized in the second half, and Christoph Piatek then scored a brace to seal 3 points for the host. Leaders Bayern Munich will host second-place RB Leipzig today. Napoli have remained their stadium after the late club legend Diego Maradona, former Argentina attacking midfielder and manager Maradona, led the Italian side to the Serie A titles in 1987 and 1990. Maradona died at the age of 60 on the 25th of November. The Stadio San Paolo will now be known as the Stadio Diego Armando Maradona after the Napoli City Council approved the resolution. Napoli owner Aurelio De Laurentiis proposed remaining the stadium in an open letter after Maradona's death. Maradona spent 7 years at Napoli after joining from Barcelona in 1984. Maradona made 188 appearances for Napoli, more than he made for any other club in his career. In motorsports Formula One race, Mercedes' George Russell completes a clean sweep 2 practice sessions at the Sakir Grand Prix. Russell is Lewis Hamilton's late stand-in after he tested positive for COVID-19. Russell beat Red Bull's Max Verstappen by a fraction of a second, while teammate Valtteri Bottas finished 11th. Bottas set the fastest lap of the session, but had the time deleted for exceeding track limits. Racing Point Sergio Perez was third ahead of Renault's Esteban Ocon. Hamilton is leading the driver standings 131 points ahead of teammate Bottas. Russian aerial athletes ran away with the opener of the FIS Freestyle Ski World Cup in Finland. The Russians easily claimed the men's category while also taking third in the women's competition. Maxim Berlov beat out Russian compatriot Pavel Krotov and older brother Lia Burov to top the podium, while Australia's Laura Peel beat Emma West of Germany and Russia's Anastasia Braitkova to claim the opener. The delayed season was short on spectators due to COVID-19 restrictions, but it did not limit the skill and acrobatics. And now let's have a look at the weather updates across the globe. And that is the end of the bulletin. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at indus.news. Take care.